this Upswing Academy's, I think it's the 9th talk on university application and university study. And today we have Jasmine and Jasmine and Alex with us. And these two speakers will share with us their own experience in the university application, as well as their study, their life on the campus. Before we get started, I just want to briefly introduce Upswing Academy for those who have heard very little about us. So Upswing Academy, based in Oakville, Ontario. We offer reading, we offer writing and vocabulary. We also offer bridging programs to university, which kind of helping students get ready for university studies. Well, that's our slogan: bring every learner above and beyond. Make sure that you're reaching your potential. That's what we're aiming to do. So as the school starts in September, so on the screen you will see our upcoming program from September. If you have any questions, you are interested in any specific program, you can always contact us through either the telephone number, you can call us, or you can scan QR code and connect to us through WeChat. Okay, that's very brief. I hope you are not bored. So now let's get started with our guest speakers today. So today we'll start with Jasmine. Okay, so let me just stop my share so that she can start it. Give me a second. Okay, that's good. Okay, so a very brief introduction about Jasmine as well. So Jasmine is actually from a neighboring city, from Mississauga, and she has been doing really great in her high school years. She was actually all the scores above 6, is that right? Yeah, and actually participating in the CCTV competition, in singing competition, sort of. Yeah, he actually the top 10 contestants nationally, okay? And in 2018, he's also the winner of DECA in sports and entertainment marketing projects, right? And he has received offers from Rotman, U of T, Queen's, West Ontario, Ivy, and also York University and University of Waterloo. And at this moment, she's studying at Queen's University and second year, I believe, and with a GPA of 4.1. Besides all this academic achievement, she's also running CREO Solution Club. So it's a kind of consulting club, consulting firm type of business. So you're helping, I believe, students?
Helping like businesses, yeah.
Businesses, okay, great. Yeah, it's actually by students, right?
Yeah, it's run by students.
That's cool. So probably later she will introduce, give us more information about her achievement and her endeavor, her struggles. I hope some of it, and then how she had achieved so much things until now. Okay, so now let me give you the floor to Jasmine, and Jasmine, you can share your screen and we can get started.
Okay, so I'll just share my screen with everyone. Let me see. Sorry about that. Okay. Find the right screen. Okay, so basically today I just wanted to sort of share my experiences in high school and going into university. And because I'm just like, I only experienced 1 year of university, so I'm currently going into my second year. A lot of this is just gonna be some of my own personal experiences and also advice I would give myself if I were going through high school again and applying to university. And so, just a short introduction about me. So as you know, second year student at Queen's University at Smith School of Business. And the high school I went to is called Glen Forest Secondary School. It was a IB school. And my hobbies are singing and playing the guitar. So that's just a short intro about me. And so basically today I just want to talk about navigating through high school, my experiences with that, applying to university, and extracurricular activities and clubs I've been a part of, and sort of my experience with that, and also a bit of insight into just uni life at Queen's or in general. So first off, navigating through high school, I think if I were to like tell someone coming into high school or currently in high school, some of the most important things I would say during high school is these three things. So first of all, practicing time management, taking on leadership roles, and also exploring your interests. So I think these are three pieces of advice I would give someone in high school. So first of all, practicing time management, basically just juggling schoolwork with actual work or other extracurriculars and clubs. And through this, sort of developing a good work ethic, as this will also prepare you for university. So I think university is a lot more fast-paced than high school, and there's a lot more work compared to high school. So I think getting into the habit of practicing time management would be really helpful. And so splitting up your assignments, not doing one assignment in one sitting, but sort of planning out your schedule for that, and keeping a calendar and an agenda for all your important deadlines and dates. I think these tips are what sort of really helped me through high school. And the second thing is taking on leadership roles. So I think coming into high school, I was really reluctant to join a lot of clubs or to go for a lot of these leadership roles and positions, just because coming into high school, I was just not familiar, especially in grade 9. I didn't really feel comfortable stepping out of my comfort zone with all these things. But I feel like, especially for applying for university, but even after getting into university, continuing exploring or taking on those leadership roles is also really important, as you can use it to build your resume and also gain a lot more experience, which is very helpful when you're applying to anything, clubs, university, or jobs. And it also allows you to sort of meet new people and also make new friends and just build sort of your connections or build your network as well. And in high school especially, it sets you up for teacher recommendations. So a lot of the times when you're applying to scholarships or when you're applying to university, sometimes they ask you for teacher references or recommendations, letters from teachers. And so by joining a lot more clubs and taking on these leadership positions will put you in a really good spot to ask for those recommendations. And also in high school, I think one important thing is to explore your interests. So something I always tell people is grade 9 and 10, your grades really don't matter that much, especially if you're not applying to university in the States, in the US. It really doesn't matter that much. So in grade 9 and 10, I would actually recommend to take a lot of electives that you're interested in, and to also like explore your interests and to find out what you like or dislike, because I feel that this would really help you when you're trying to decide on what sort of program you want to apply to in uni, and also what university you want to go to. And it also allows you to try a lot of new things and gain a lot of new skills as well. So definitely in high school, I would recommend you to explore your interests. So the next thing that I want to sort of focus on or talk about is applying to university. And so I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about the application process or some important things that universities look for. And so just based off my experience, first of all, let me just talk about my program that I ended up choosing and I'm currently in. So I'm currently in Smith School of Business, so the commerce program for Queen's University. And so actually, I only applied to business programs and business schools because I sort of found out that I really had no interest in any of the sciences or engineering. So I guess after process of elimination, I only picked business programs. And so my other options were the Ivy program at Western, the accounting and financial management program at Waterloo, and also Schulich at York and Rotman UFT. As well, and I think I also applied to Laurier's business program as well. And so I decided to choose Queen's mostly because of sort of, first of all, it had a pretty high reputation amongst the bachelor's commerce program, and it also had a pretty well-known and large alumni base. And so a lot of people say, if you want to build connections or a network, you should go to Queen's. And so that was something that I considered as well. And I also liked how it was 2 years of a general business program. And then it allowed you to specify into more specific streams, such as marketing, accounting, finance, or consulting. And so you have time to sort of explore what stream of business you want to go into. And I also really liked the exchange program that it had in third year, where you can go on a 4-month exchange program. And so those were the reasons why I chose Queen's over the other business programs. And so as for sort of the application, this is my opinion, but I feel it's pretty accurate. I feel your grades only make up like 20% of sort of your overall application or what universities consider. And the other, or I'm not too sure about universities in the States, but at least for Canadian universities, a lot of it, 40% is based off of your experience that you have. And also maybe the other 40% would be based on your essay questions. So I know every university, they usually have an application package, and there's our various essay questions that you have to answer, and also experiences that you have to write about. And so, so even if your grades aren't the best, you can definitely make that up with a lot of diverse and interesting and also unique experiences that you can speak about, and also answering, just like being really good at writing out your essay answers to the questions as well. And so I think these 3 things are what universities typically look for when they're sort of looking at candidates. So the first thing is your resume experience. And so that's why I stress that it's very important to join extracurriculars and clubs. And I know it's super hard, especially for more introverted people or more people who are less comfortable stepping out of their comfort zone. I know I was like that, especially in grade 9 and 10. I felt that I didn't really want to join that many clubs. There's a lot of work, and you had to be really sort of like outgoing, and you had to really put yourself out there. But I feel that looking at it from a perspective of applying to university and also gaining experience is pretty important. And so building up your resume with these clubs or part-time work or volunteer experience is a lot more important than trying to get the highest grade possible. And also another thing that universities look for is how interesting or how unique you are, since there's so many people that are applying to the same program, and a lot of the times their experiences are very similar. So I was part of the Student Activity Council, or I joined DECA, or all these experiences, they're pretty similar. And so the hardest part would be how to write about these experiences to make yourself stand out and to make yourself or to really present a very unique and interesting experience that maybe only you can talk about, or that you have a unique twist or interesting take on. And also talking about sort of how this experience is significant and how it sort of shaped you as a student or as a person. And so for me, I think a tip I would give is to really focus on 2 to 3 really strong points about yourself, or very interesting and unique experiences, and sort of bring everything that you talk about back to those 2 to 3 points, to make it really memorable and to make that really stick to whoever's reading your application. And this is for interviews as well. So yeah, those are sort of the tips that I would give. And also, good writing is also very, very important when you're writing your uni applications, because such a big part of what they look for is your answers to essay questions. It's really important to be very clear and concise when you're writing your answers. And your answers should be very structured and very easy to follow. So I always like to signpost before going into detail of your points. And so I think something that really helped me write my applications is writing outlines and rough drafts first. They don't have to be perfect the first time you go through them, but get your outline and your structure down. What are your key points, and what are the points that you really want to focus on, and think about how you can expand on these points and how you can make them unique. I feel that everything is easier once you have your structure and your outline down. So next thing I want to talk about is sort of extracurriculars and clubs, and not just in high school, but also in university as well, and sort of their importance. And so I think the most important things that I got out of extracurriculars or joining clubs are these 4 things. So the first one would be practice. And I think not just practice putting yourself out there, but also practicing writing your applications and doing interviews, and also just challenging yourself. Because I know during high school, because I think Glen Forest was a pretty intense high school when it came to clubs, and they always had these like really intense application processes and interview processes. I think that really prepared me for university, because going into university, I know a lot of people were surprised about like the sheer number of interviews that you had to do, not even for jobs, but just for clubs as well. And so I think that really prepped me and prepared me for that. So definitely getting practice. In high school, it's not that big of a deal, so just like going for those opportunities, and also gives you sort of a head start, especially joining a lot of clubs in grade 9 and 10, as opposed to grades 11 and 12. I feel like that really helps you sort of build your resume and sort of gain or get higher level leadership roles or opportunities, because when you go into a club in high school, and if you stay with that club throughout your 4 years, it really allows you to do a lot more things, and to maybe sort of move up the ranks in sort of your positions or what you do, and do like a lot of higher level leadership work or tasks that you can really speak upon and gain a lot more experiences. So definitely in grades 9 and 10, just really go for those opportunities, even if it's scary. I think that's something that I would definitely tell myself if I was back in grade 9. And of course, it builds your resume because you gain leadership roles, and you're also experiencing working in teams, dealing with conflict, or persuading people, or putting your ideas out there, and at the same time managing your time and also managing stress and balancing all these leadership roles with your actual schoolwork. That's something that's really important. All these skills are really important, and you gain these through extracurriculars, and universities also look for them. And of course, you also meet new people. I think after first year of university, I think I've truly realized how important your network is and how important like meeting new people is. And so just like practicing that in high school, and just like making new friends and building your network, and getting familiar with working with different types of people is definitely a reason why you should join extracurriculars and clubs. So just a few tips I think I have. So try everything out in your first year, both high school and university. Also building good relationships with your teachers. A lot of the times in high school, you have your teacher supervisors that are in charge of your club. So that's a really good opportunity. And also diversifying your experiences. So not just having experiences in academic clubs, having sports, experience or instruments or volunteer or leadership experience is also very valuable. And also maybe thinking of starting something of your own. I think that shows a lot of initiative and a lot of drive that universities usually look for as well. And joining with friends as well. It's a lot more fun and a lot easier to put yourself out there if you have your support group or people who are joining with you. And so basically, I just want to sort of give a rundown of my extracurriculars since high school. So I think in high school, I joined DECA, and I was a big part of that. So I ended up competing internationally, and got top 20 in the sports and entertainment category. And I was also the treasurer of the student activity council at my high school. And so that also gave me a lot of experiences I could write about. And I also participated in, so outside of academics, so singing competitions, so talent competitions. And I also on the side sort of, as I touch upon starting something of your own, I sort of started my own small online English teaching business. And so that definitely gave me a lot to talk about. Especially since I was going into business. Yeah, like starting something of your own. And in university, I've also joined as a marketing coordinator for Investa Insights, which is an investment club at Queen's, also run by students. And I'm also a consultant right now on Creo Solutions, which is like we mentioned before, a student-run consultancy. So these are some of my extracurriculars. And as you can see, there's sort of a mix of everything in there, not just academic oriented clubs, but also a bit of singing as well, and a bit of things that I've been doing on the side myself. And so lastly, I just want to give sort of some insights or a sneak peek into university life based off of my 1 year in uni. So for academics, like I said before, it's a lot more fast-paced. There's more work, less guidance and reminders from your professors. And there's a lot more group work, at least in my program, and writing reports as well. And so some tips I would definitely give is make sure you're very organized and you keep an agenda and calendar of everything, or else it's very easy to have things slip and miss deadlines. And also talk to a lot of upper years and do your research on things like courses, professors, clubs, and other opportunities. I think that definitely helps. And as for social life, I feel there's a lot more independence in university. And I find that you actually have a lot of time, but it's also very easy to waste that time. And you kind of have to balance your school life and your social life or your party life, whatever you want to call it. And so for me, what I like to do is I always like to plan my day beforehand. So the night before, I kind of list out what I'm going to do the next day, not just schoolwork, but also like when to exercise or if I'm going to go somewhere with friends, just so that I don't like waste a day, because I feel like it's very, very easy to do that when you have so much time. And every day you just like, maybe you don't have that many classes, but you have a lot of time outside of that. And it's very easy to just waste it. And so getting into a routine is also very important, on like starting good habits, eating on time and getting exercise. And also just like building your support group with your friends and family, I think is very important, because sometimes it gets really hard. I know sometimes I was very stressed out in uni, but like talking to friends and family just made that a lot better. And also just like meeting new people and joining clubs, and of course managing your time in university would be some of the tips that I would give first year uni students, and also people who are going into uni soon. Yeah, so that's basically all I have for everyone today. I hope some of the advice or experiences I shared is going to be helpful for everyone.
Thank you, Jasmine. And yeah, I think you made a very good point about extracurricular. So extracurriculum is not just about, well, you do something that you are interested in, but actually it's a great opportunity for you to practice many things beyond that particular interest. Well, you can probably enjoy singing or even dancing or any other hobbies, but at the same time, you're actually dealing with other people, the people skills you mentioned, right? And also um, about failures and how you face the stress. I think that's a very good point. I think for many of our audience here, I'm sure that you have a lot of interest. So it's not just about adding one more interest one more extracurriculum points into your resume. It's really using that opportunity to develop all the skills that are around it. It's not just about singing skills, but sort of people skills, life managing skills, right? I mean, all that. I think that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I hope our audience can echo on that point as well. Okay, thank you. So yeah, I do have more questions for you afterwards. So next one, I want to bring up Alex. So Alex is actually in grade, this is what, the third year for you, right? Yeah, the fourth year already. Okay. So Alex is from Caltech in California, and he's actually graduated from U of T schools. Wow, that's like really nice school in downtown Toronto, University of Toronto schools. Okay. Besides, he also practiced in many other extracurriculums with a lot of awards, including one of these, the chemistry Olympia, right? Yeah, and at a silver award, and also the third place, actually, the third place in North America. Okay, so Alex, now I make you co-host, and you can share your screen, and you can get started. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Ming. Let's see. Everything small. Move this out of the way. All right. So today I'll be talking to you about two things. Firstly, my considerations in like looking and considering universities, and secondly, what my university experience was like and how I applied. So let's, and I think I like to think of this as engineering your success, because I think there's a lot of strategy you can use to strengthen, your success in university and beyond. So I'll first talk like briefly about what I've done. So I'm going to my fourth year of university at Caltech. It's a small university with a 6.6 acceptance rate. I also competed in international chemistry Olympiad, so won a silver medal, which is like 20th percentile. I also placed in the national biology competition, the computing competition, and the design competition. This was in high school. I think one of the biggest things I did was to co-found a club. As Jasmine was talking about, starting your own thing, getting all that experience is very important. And I think this was a key part of my application. So in this club, I taught 500 students and 100 master students about global rights issues. I've also been on my student council from grade 9 to 12 as a representative. And another thing that I think helped my application was volunteering to do research at very basic level with people at the University of Toronto, and also online with a researcher at MIT. And so I think it's important to emphasize here, not any one thing here is like, a key to like getting into university. And plenty of people who do international math or physics Olympiad don't get into top US schools. And so I think it's important to develop kind of both a breadth of experience academically and also leadership-wise. So having experiences like co-founding a club and trying to improve global rights around the world is an important contribution to application so that people see that you're someone who can be a really strong change maker. So that aside, I'll just talk briefly about my statistics just so that you know. I have these scores in SAT back when it was 3 parts. My grade 11 and grade 12 GPAs were in the mid 90s. Not all my courses were mid 90s. English and French were worse, but still above 90. And I think that's important because you don't want to neglect any one subject, and good writing is really important. So I worked really hard to make my writing better because it was not good before grade 11. And that was like my weakest link in my application. And so practicing a lot and taking classes was really helpful for me to have a good balanced application. And I think, getting like really high scores, as I'll talk about later, is I don't think a really strong component. Like it doesn't get you into US, top universities because a lot of people have that. And so as Jasmine was saying, it's really important to show how you're special in a different way. And then finally, I took AP courses over 3 years, scored 5 in English, calculus, physics, chemistry, biology, and microeconomics. Although I think my word of advice here is that it's okay if your school doesn't have AP courses. At least from Caltech, the admissions policy is they just like to see that you're taking the most challenging version of that course available at your school. So it's not necessary for you to go out of your way to get these courses if it's not offered in your school. So I'll talk a little bit about my university experience and what I thought was really important to look for when I was applying to universities. So let's see. Just wanted to ask a quick question. Can you see like this bar up here of like, mute, stop video, security, participants? I'm wondering if I need to like hide it or something. Okay, no? Well, feel free to speak up if if both my video is lagging or there's a lot of weird pop-ups right now. So I think the first thing that I thought was really important in a university was being able to be surrounded by very high-achieving and motivating peers. And the reason why is you're going to spend 90% of your time not with the professors or the TAs or doing research, but with each other. And so being able to find a community, whether that's a university or a specific program that allows you to be energized by these people was really important. I also thought that having research and extracurricular opportunities is really important to me so that I could get real world experience, which is really useful when applying to grad school or to like jobs. I was also looking for a school with, I think, plenty of career opportunities. And I think that exists in many schools. However, there is a little bit of a bias in terms of both having alumni connections and also having recruiters giving you the interview at, let's say, a tech company, where they might have some bias when they look at your university or come to your career fair. But I think once you get the interview, that bias is not so important anymore. Like, at least in computer science, after you get the interview, it just comes down to like how good you actually are. Next, of course, you want to have a high quality of education. And I think this is really depends on like your learning style. I personally liked having smaller class sizes so you can ask questions and get more involved with the professor. And also having a strong relationship with the professor is really useful for getting reference letters later on. And so I thought that was important. And also having good student life. Like you want to go to a place where you'll be happy and find community. So whether that's a larger school where you have more access to like different communities and a bigger crowd, or a smaller school where things are more tight knit but like limited, is something you should try to figure out. And then finally, I think it's important not to forget that the finances are pretty important. And so I would say at the top level of US universities, Harvard, let's say, probably going to make education really cheap once you actually consider the financial aid. Even if you're making, like however many figures as a family, you would be surprised to see how generous the financial aid was. And for me personally, Caltech basically made it as expensive as going to University of Toronto to actually go, including living and studying. So I really think that you should look at these financial aid calculators to see how much you'd be getting, because US can be surprisingly affordable. On the other hand, I missed out on a lot of opportunities to apply to scholarships for universities in Canada. And so that's another great way that you can like get both recognition and a financial reward. So finally, my choices, in the end, I applied early. So I didn't really apply to that many places. Got accepted to Caltech, University of Toronto Engineering Science, and Waterloo Software Engineering. And I was waitlisted and then rejected from MIT. So let me know if you have any questions. I might not be able to like see them, so if you want to say, if Ming wants to ping me, down to answer any questions. Okay, and just had to show you some pictures of my experience at Caltech. And so in the top left, this is me with the former CEO of Google. And what's great was he sponsored a class at Caltech to match people in computer science and science to do research together. So I was a part of this, and actually published some research earlier this year after a year of working on it. And so it was great to have that kind of leadership and expertise to push us into this direction. On the top right is just a hackathon, a computer science competition that I went to at Stanford with some peers, and having a really brilliant peers around me from Caltech was really helpful in enabling us to do well. The bottom left is it's kind of like a funny photo of when we were, this is like a first year activity where we like carry the president of our dorm and like dunk her into a pond. So I really like the small size of Caltech to like create that level of community with the traditions and other like fun activities. And then finally, this is me interning at Facebook. And so I thought overall in my university experience, these internships was really instrumental in helping to prepare me for a career in the future and strengthening my breadth of experiences and resume. So I also wanted to share, in terms of statistics, to give you an idea, Caltech, the entire school has about 200 computer science majors and let's say 100 mechanical engineers. So it's really impressive that we are able to send 20 interns to Facebook and Microsoft each, 10 to Google and Intel, and 5 to Apple and Boeing, among others. I didn't list chemical engineering, bioengineering. There's a lot of other places that people go, but these are pretty good statistics. And it shows that, I guess, Caltech is doing something right and delivering this education. So that's one reason why it might be useful to go. Although that's not to say at Waterloo, these statistics are also extremely, strong. The amount of people who go to these top companies is something that's available right here in Canada. So I'll say a little bit about some of the surprises that I found in university that might inform a little bit of how you approach university and how you should pick universities. So I think in university, one thing that really changes is that this level of the schoolwork becomes very difficult and will often push you far beyond your capability to study yourself. And so it's very important for me to learn to collaborate and kind of get out of this high school habit of just doing everything on my own. And so having that level of like socializing university is really important for your academic success, actually. Adding on to what Jasmine was saying about doing, going into organizations, starting early, and being able to do interesting work. For me, I thought another thing I wanted to add to that was that focusing your effort on a few key organizations that you believe in, that you think will give you meaningful experiences, I think is important because you'll be extremely busy in university. At least for me, I always had a tendency to do too much. And so focusing on, let's say, the robotics team was really great because now for me, I'm like the lead machine learning engineer for the team. And I think by having that level of dedication, I was able to accomplish much more than just trying to do a little bit of everything. As Jasmine was saying, it's very easy to throw off your schedule, especially your sleep schedule. So it's important to learn how to control that by yourself and find a healthy rhythm. Finally, well, not finally, next, I would say it's really important to actually start networking, getting referrals, and reaching out to your community for opportunities. Especially with coronavirus, and I would say not a lot of things you're going to have to proactively search for, like internships, research, volunteering experiences, etc. And that's a skill that's important to learn in university. Jasmine was talking about how it's important to make upper year friends. And something that people don't realize is once you're looking for a job, your upper year friends already have a job, right? And so if you're looking for referrals and now you have all these contacts at these companies, applications become much easier into places. And that's how I was able to get internships at Facebook and Uber, was purely through the referral. Otherwise, it would be very hard for me to get the interview. And adding on to that, why you even want these kind of experiences at the first place is because in places like technology, these kind of real experiences, whether they're professional or extracurricular, I think are more important than taking courses or even your GPA. Of course, it's important to develop your skill set, but ultimately, people are looking for, will this person do like great in my company? And doing that in the past sets a really good record for the future. Finally, I would say this: if you're in grade 12 and you still don't know what to do, that's not a huge issue. I would say, at least in the US especially, these universities basically give you your first year to like figure out what you want to do. Especially at Caltech, more than 30% of people change their major. And so it's good, it's okay, as long as in high school you're actually focusing on doing at least something really interesting, something really hard and impactful. That's what matters. That's not going to tie you to what you do in the future. So I did, a chemistry competition and activism, and now I'm doing computer science, right? That's fine. And so I would just say, don't get too stressed about that, but do be focused in whatever you are doing right now. Okay. So let's talk about a few application tips. And I'm not going to go over like everything, and it is just too much, right? So I'm going to just give you a little bit of strategic tips that I think are something maybe you haven't heard of yet in applying to schools. So this is something I really want to emphasize, is that I think top Canadian programs are sometimes overlooked. And you would be surprised to find that many of them actually have acceptance rates lower than the top universities in the US. So things like the Queen's Accelerated Med School, McMaster Health Science, like UBC, Queen's Bachelor of Commerce programs, Waterloo Software Engineering. these are top programs with amazing outcomes. And so I think in Canada, we have big universities that contain these really amazing programs. And so I would recommend looking at it from the program level and trying to seek these out because they're really great ingredients for a lot of resources, a lot of that good stuff I was talking about before about what you want to look for in a university. Additionally, oh, and also, by the way, if you want a picture of like that slide or this slide afterwards, my email is in the bottom right. So feel free to email me, just ask. I'm happy to send you this, or you can just screenshot it right now, up to you. So I would also say that at least in Canada, many of us are not aware of some of the really brilliant American universities out there that similarly have really strong strengths in certain areas. So Johns Hopkins, unbeatable for biomedical engineering, and they're leading a lot of the statistics in coronavirus right now. Berkeley, great for engineering, science, entrepreneurship, especially. Carnegie Mellon is the top robotics university in the U.S., and so on and so forth. And so I think some of these lesser known names in Canada are actually really popular in the U.S. And so it's important to consider don't just be applying to Harvard and Yale. That's not going to get you the best return on your effort investment, in my opinion. So let's talk a little bit about a few key tips I think are important to keep in mind for strategy for the US especially. So generally, I think that applying early can increase your chances. So there is a bit of a conflicted opinion on this. From what I've seen, essentially there's two arguments. One is the acceptance rates are higher for early programs. However, maybe it's because the applicants are actually better, right? So is it actually beneficial? And I think based on a big one of these big college consulting sites that have taught thousands of students, they claim to find that applying early, even when you account for people's strength of application, can increase your chances. And so I would say that if there is universities that you are particularly interested in, it's good practice not only to apply early, but also can help you with getting in. And do your research. Right? So I was just saying, universities are not one size fits all. And you can find a really amazing university for you if you're looking closely and in depth to what they offer. So let's talk a little bit about essays. I think primarily, essays don't come out of thin air. People have write essays about all different kinds of things. You can write about some of the difficult life experiences you had throughout your early days. You can talk about some of the accomplishments you achieved. And I think a pretty good formula for being able to have a lot of fuel for your essays is to do really amazing things in high school that show that you're impactful. And so as Jasmine was saying, there are thousands of applicants who are going to have all done X, Y, Z. Maybe they're did a fundraiser or did X or Y. So what makes your idea creative and stand out? And what did you actually gain from the experience that was meaningful? Those are things that help to make you stand out among groups of very qualified candidates. I would also say to start writing your application essays early. You don't have to go crazy. Don't write them in May or something, but don't rush them to the last moment. For me, I'm at least starting to think about during the summer, what are the main topics that I'm going to write about, how I'm going to address essays that are common between applications, and what is going to be my Common App essay, right? And so segment these topics, build plans for what essays you're going to write, and then build like repeatable essays that you can use for like many different universities, so you don't have to like exhaust yourself writing them. And then finally, I think maybe this is, for me at least, my biggest insight into how I think a good essay could be written. You can write a good essay in many ways, but all my essays basically followed this strategy. So first, you present what is like a real challenge that I am facing, whether it's maybe it's something with my family, maybe it's a competition, maybe it's leading a team at my school. Then you actually don't want to just talk about, oh, here's how I solved it, and then we got an award, right? That's actually not a very interesting essay, because I don't know if maybe you just got lucky and maybe you just didn't actually learn anything from that experience. And so I think the two important pieces you need to put in the middle is present what is actually this, what challenge does this present to my personal growth? So how did I have to grow and improve as a person in order to be able to solve this challenge, right? Every challenge you do, it's, especially in high school, you're being pushed outside of your comfort zone, or you have to learn something new, or you have to try something or you have to make, friends out of enemies, right? These are all things that actually show that you're growing as a person, and that you'll continue to grow in university and become a better, more impactful person. So that's why it's important to then highlight, go inside, what personally improved about me as a person? How did I accomplish something? What am I proud that I like spent, hours and blood, sweat, and tears on this project? Am I proud that I was able to like get over my dislike of someone to negotiate a solution, right? And then talk about how that led to like your final objective achievement. So then I'm reading this essay and I'm thinking, okay, like they're very they understand how to repeat like success and how to continue to grow to face bigger challenges. And I think this is a good format. There are many others, of course, but this worked for me at least. And then let's talk about just the two other things. So grades and tests. This is, I don't think it's very controversial that at least for these like top US universities, grades and tests should be good enough, but on their own will not get you into one of these universities. And I guess this may be a problem, like everyone was studying for tests, getting good grades, and, who knows how their school is grading, maybe it's very inflated. And so ultimately these universities will just use this as a benchmark to say, okay, like, should I reject this person like right now, right? And then once you like pass that threshold, then okay, now they're actually just focused on like, who is this as a person? So I think that's important to keep in mind. Like, it's not important to move your 95 to 100 for these universities, or like getting, benchmark good grades in most of your subjects, and maybe having a few that stand out is, I think, good enough. Like, you should be, instead of spending your time being able to write these like really, having these awesome experiences that you can write about, as opposed to pouring like too much time into these kind of things. And then finally, I think also something that's overlooked is having strong teacher recommendations is very important. And how do you even do this, right? Like, it can seem very like confusing. I think there's a lot of strategies that are like replicable, that are consistent, that you can do to have strong recommendations. So you want to establish a strong relationship by doing various things. You can be a tutor for their class. You can just show that you're supporting other students. You can be putting in extra effort into your projects and seeing them after school to discuss, new ideas, how you can go above and beyond. And finally, I think if you can run a club or start a club and get your teacher involved, or have them, give you advice on how to like do something better, then they automatically get a good picture into like how's this applicant different? How hard do they work? Are they a creative person? Like, all these things start to become much more rich in their letters, other than like, this was a good student. Like that is not a good letter for a top US university. Just having a good grade in their class is like a weak recommendation. And finally, before they write the letters, in the coming fall from grade 12, just give them like a whole package of like your resume, your curriculum vitae of like what did I basically show them all your accomplishments so that they have a reference list of okay, what does this person actually do, and they don't have to like be confused or ask. And finally, one note I just want to end with is that over my coming 4 years of college, I think it's increasingly clear that your success depends mostly on how much effort you put in, not your school. At Uber and at Facebook, some of the brightest engineers and employees are coming from no-name schools, right? Because they put effort in and they showed people that they can achieve. And so I wouldn't stress this too much. This like does not decide your fate at all, but it can help give you a bit of a bit more inspiration, a bit more resources, and advancing your journey. And so yeah, that's all I have. Sorry for going like way over time. Yeah, here's my contact information. If you want to hit me up and email, reach out.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Okay, actually, I do have some questions for both of you, Jasmine and Alex. And while I think our audience can start to post your questions into the chat window. So yeah, let me just start with a few questions, and so that audience have time to write and think. Okay, so the first one, I think I have a question for Alex. So you mentioned about actually university schoolwork are too hard. I mean, they can be a lot harder than we anticipate. I mean, as a high school students. So can you explain to us, like, I mean, what do you mean by they're too hard? They're hard in what ways?
Yeah. So hard in the way that without any help, it would it's very hard for you to solve it yourself. I think this is especially, at least my experience with science and math. I mean, sometimes you get problems that you have no idea where to start, and so it's important to build that support network of teaching assistants, professors, and other classmates to get you through the work and check each other's answers, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So university can be very challenging. I know. I mean, even nowadays, like many of the new ways of teaching, like the flipped classroom, they really requires you to read a lot and a lot of, independent study. And before you go to classroom and you have discussions, so it's really challenging. Yeah. So, as high school students, where you can prepare yourself for university, that's really critical for your university success. Yeah. So good. Yeah, it can be hard. Okay, so I have a question for Jasmine. So you mentioned about this CREO, the consulting kind of a company run by students, and how did what kind of business you are doing there? I mean, what kind of clients you are serving, and how the companies, your clients, respond to students' business?
So basically, as I mentioned before, it's a student-run consultancy. And so it's actually been running for quite a long time. It was founded in 2004 by a group of Queen's Commerce students. And so throughout the years, they've really built their sort of system, and also had a lot of alumni working in different industries. And we also have like a lot of scoping sessions and support from the top consultancies, and also alumni at the top consultancies. And so basically the work we do is we reach out to potential clients. So, and like both small to big businesses, for-profit and nonprofit. So there's a mix of different businesses that we target, and we just sort of reach out to them and see if they have any issues, problems, or things that they need a consultancy for. So if they're trying to find out whether or not to go to market for like a certain product, or they want to launch like a new project, but they don't really have time to find out more about it, that's where we can step in and help them do the market research, or help them find the best solution to a problem that they have. And so as a consultant, basically the club, like every year they hire new first years and also second years as consultants to sort of work on these projects, and also help out with all the projects and do all the research as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's also, I mean, exciting, right? I mean, students, you can apply what you've learned from the classroom and then to put that into use. Yeah, good. Okay. I have two more questions. So this is for both of you. So both of you actually mentioned about time management. So both of you said time management is the key because your schedule will become crazier. You will have very limited time. If you want to explore your interests, like your time is just like, you have to squeeze your time, right? But of course, everybody knows we need an agenda. We need to put things into our agenda. But just having an agenda does not mean you can manage your time successfully. So what would be your suggestion for our high school students? I mean, in terms of time management, what's really the key? I mean, the key is not just put them into agenda, right? So what are the things you need to think about? Yeah, what's your advice? So any of you can answer that question, yeah.
I think, of course, putting it in an agenda won't just like automatically make you motivated to get things done and to actually get things done. But I think it's like a first step, definitely, like at least writing it down. Because I think writing it down is at least you're like planning, or like you have somewhat of a schedule and you're planning to get it done. And the next thing, so I think I mentioned this in my presentation, but one sort of strategy that I like to use is the day before, I always like to plan out my next day, because I feel that if I do that, like I can keep myself more accountable for whether or not I finish certain things. So if like the day before I say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, even if I don't get all those things on the list done, I at least have like the mind to do it. And maybe I'll get like half of it done, or like a part of it done, but that's like better than nothing. So I think just like having sort of a plan to get things done rather than pushing everything or like procrastinating on everything.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I have three different tips. One is if you make it social, like we are going to study together or compare answers by this time, that helps keep you like, it enforces that you actually have to do it because now other people are relying on you. Secondly, I think it's important to schedule breaks. Like we're not machines, and knowing when we can like relax can help us focus now instead of us worrying all the time, like when am I ever going to get a break? And then I think thirdly, it's easier to like remove your access to things that will be distractions rather than actively resisting. So for example, like if there's an app on your phone or a game on your computer that you know is very hard to resist, I like to just delete it because then I don't have to try to resist it. It just comes automatically, and that helps me like save my willpower for like other battles.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, time management is a big topic. So yeah, I mean, everybody's struggling with that. Even in your career life, you'll be struggling with time management, right? Okay, so I have one more question before we move on to our audience, our students' question. So last question is about writing. It's the same. Both of you stressed enough on how important the writing is. So Alex even mentioned about the few different models of writing, right? So you can start with the challenge, your personal growth, your achievement, and the objective achievement. So there are many ways to write an essay. I mean, especially talking about essay for university application. So normally how long would that take for you to, I mean, for your case, maybe as an example, how long did it take for you to prepare your first essay? Like, how much time do you think you spent on that? When did you start to work on it? I mean, even talking about when you started collecting informations, coming up maybe a mind map or graphic organizer, how long would that whole process take?
I would say if you're like actively working on it for most days, maybe you can get like one application done. Like your first application is going to be the hardest. Maybe it'll take a month, couple of weeks to like plan everything out, write good outlines, consider different ways of telling the same story, and then once you're writing it, maybe like 1 week per school or something like that.
Okay. So yeah, normally it's like around like 700, I mean, maximum 2 page long. Yeah. So yeah, it takes probably a week to do. I think the first one probably take longer than that. And then the next one, the next version, different variations will become a lot easier. What about you, Jasmine? Is it somewhat the same?
Yeah, I think it's like pretty similar. I think especially for the first one, it's like really hard to start and you don't know where to start. And then I think for like, I think a long time, like I tried to like think, or like I took a look at the essay questions and then I wouldn't write anything just yet, but I would maybe like take time to think about it. So like maybe like on the way, like the car ride to school, like I would just like jot random experiences down or like maybe key points that I could think about. And then after maybe like give it a week of sort of like brainstorming or just like jotting down just like random things, I would then start to sort of put together a rough draft and maybe a more detailed outline. And sort of that process would take maybe like a few days, and then I would get to the actual writing, which like Alex mentioned, maybe would take anywhere from like 1 to 2 weeks. And then after that, I feel like after that, it gets a lot easier because you can reuse a lot of your experiences that you write for your first application, or just like, and you get better at writing it or like changing things depending on the university you're targeting or the program you're targeting.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, writing is another huge topic. It's really requires a lot of efforts and planning and drafts and then polishing, revising, editing, and final. Maybe there's no final version, right? Basically, you have a different version for different school. Yeah, okay. So now let's go back to the questions our audience have posted. Okay, I have one here. Let me just share that screen with you. And this question is for Jasmine. Okay. Okay. So it's about the course you took from grade 9 to 12 IB courses. Okay.
Yeah, so I took I actually kind of regret not taking more electives in grade 9 and also grade 10, mainly because our school actually didn't offer that many course choices. But I would say that if your school or your IB school does offer a lot more electives and choices in your courses, I would definitely like explore a lot more. I think something I really wanted to explore was comp sci, but our school didn't offer it, so it was pretty hard for me to pick that. But in grade 11 and 12, for my choices of courses, I actually picked economics and psychology. I think I didn't pick any science courses. The only science course I picked was chemistry, because I knew that like by that point, I sort of knew I didn't want to go into any of the sciences. So I think it doesn't really matter that much, to be honest, what course you choose, as long as you make sure that you're choosing prerequisites for your program. So for business, they didn't actually have any prerequisites, so I could pick anything that I wanted to. But I know for like if you're going into health sciences or engineering, they might require some courses. So just making sure that you're clear of that and you know which courses that you have to take. And then I would say just like depending on sort of your goal, if you want to sort of boost your grade, if that's something that you're considering, maybe taking an easier course, especially in grade 11 and 12. But other than that, I wouldn't say it matters that much.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answered the question to Jane. Okay, so next was from Sherry. How to apply for scholarship in the US for US universities?
Yeah, so I think there's two different concepts. One is merit-based, so you do it because uh, you get it because like you're a great student or a great leader. Uh, Typically, Canadians are not eligible for those. I would say in most cases. I think there are examples, like special cases. For example, if you are come from a disadvantaged background, or maybe like let's say you're a female in technology, where there's fewer of those people, then there's special scholarships. But generally, those are not available for Canadians, and Canadian scholarships are not available if you go to a U.S. university. However, applying for financial aid is a pretty standard part of the application process for most U.S. universities. And then you just giving your financials, you'll get a clear picture of how much financial aid you're getting before you have to accept an offer. And those is completely based on like your finances, not based at all on like your merit. For most schools, there's some schools that will like give you a full ride, but it's not that common.
Okay, thank you. And I believe also the university will have a lot of information on their website, and yeah, so those will be a very good starting place for if you want to start with any particular university. Okay, so next question is from Derek. How much mark is good enough in high school?
Yeah, so I might not have the most current information. My information is 4 years old. I think for most like top U.S. universities, I would say like low to mid 90s is pretty good. Um, maybe like mid 90s is like more comfortable. And like avoid having classes that are like mid 80s or below, and especially like English, because they do want to see you're like a balanced student. Um, but it depends a lot. So I would maybe try to check like what is the average like grade scope that people are getting to these universities with for the particular one you're interested in.
Yeah, if I'll just add a bit onto that. I think like most universities, they have like a cutoff line or cutoff grade, but like usually that's like a lot lower than what they actually will accept. For like most of the top Canadian universities, it depends on the program, but like Alex said, like anywhere in the 90s, I would say is pretty good. Of course, it's like better if you have maybe more mid 90s compared to low 90s. But I think as long as you're anywhere like in the 90s, at like your average or like for most of your courses, you should be fine.
Okay. Okay, next question is from May. So this is for Alex. Why do you choose Caltech instead of Waterloo or U of T?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's say all the price stuff aside, I really thought that first I thought the research opportunities there was really good, and I think that's something that was really appealing to me coming from a chemistry background, to be able to work with and during my first year in like a top research lab is not a very common opportunity, and like Waterloo or U of T. I think if you're just looking for like internships in computer science, I don't think Caltech has much of an advantage over Waterloo. But I guess it is nice like having like that research side, so you can do like interesting work over the school year. And then finally, I just thought the student life was really incredible at Caltech. All 4 years of housing in school, like with like very tight-knit student communities, for me was a huge part of my university experience and something I'm very grateful for.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, sometimes making such a decision is difficult, right? So there's so many things to actually to think about. Okay, so yeah, that's the questions I have here. Any other questions from our audience? Yeah. Okay, this one from Jane. Um, why choose Queens, not Western?
Okay, so both are like really good programs, I know. But the main deciding factor was because Queens was like a full 4-year business program. Whereas Western Ivy, it's only the last 2 years. So like for Western Ivy, the first 2 years you actually have to do like something else, not business. And then it's only the last 2 years that's like the actual business program. So I think for me, I didn't really want to do anything other than business for my first 2 years. I actually applied to like psychology for my first 2 years if I were to go to Western, but I just didn't really have an interest in anything else, and I didn't really want to just like for my first 2 years do something that I wasn't really interested in. And so that's why I chose Queens, and the program was pretty highly reputable, and I also really liked the exchange program that I had in 3rd year, and yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jasmine. Okay. Okay, so there our audience was thank you for all the answers and all the advice. And okay, so if there's no questions, I just also want to mention that Upswing Academy do offer a lot of support for your university application. We do have a specific university application program that help you to write your essay coming up in mid-September that runs for 4 weeks. We have a university professor lead you guide you hand in hand to write your first essay together. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code and well, we can give you more information about that. Okay, so well, okay, we just got another question from for Jasmine. Okay, I remember that you talked about you want to learn more about computer coding during high school last years. Can you talk more about it?
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to learn, like I wanted to take computer science courses and learn more about coding is like because now I realize that it's like a really big asset if you know, like even if you just know a little bit of coding, especially if you're in business, it helps you like a lot, especially when you're applying to jobs. Like if you have some background in computer science or know a bit of coding knowledge, that's definitely an asset, and it can make you stand out a lot compared to other applicants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think nowadays, like I mean, coding, at least you know some logic, some basic about programming. It's critical. I mean, in all other subject areas, right? Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, we always want to go back and do something else, so maybe our life would be slightly different. Okay. So yeah, let's see. If you have, do you have any other questions, students, audience, parents, anyone? Okay. So, okay. So if we have no other questions, I mean, again, Alex have left the email address over there. If you do have any specific question for Alex, you can always reach out to Alex and write him. I'm sure he will be happy to help you. And I think, yeah, for Jasmine as well, right? So if you have any question, you can always write to us and we can forward your emails, your information, your questions to Jasmine and Alex as well. So again, thank you everybody for joining us this evening, this night already. And thank you, Alex, and thank you, Jasmine, for taking your time to prepare for this talk and also answering our questions. Okay, thank you, Jasmine, for the email address. Yeah, so that's good. Okay, so yeah, hope everybody great success in grade 11, grade 12, and hope if you're preparing for your application already, wish you all the best and the best luck as well to get the university you want to attend. Okay, so thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Alice, and everyone have a great night.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Bye.